And hello,
How's it going?
James.
Hey,
James.
Hey.
how's it
Hi.
going, y'all? It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yep, can
Yes.
hear you
Yes.
fine.
How's it going? I totally forgot this was going on today. I'm like, oh my god, I've got some time finally. Let me hop on.
Woohoo. Perseverance.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. Mad stuff.
I mean, I was so nervous going into that. I mean, it's just so many points of failure, with like the crane, the sky crane coming down, with I don't know, just the initial approach of it to possibility of it burning up. Uh, just incredibly amazing how they managed to pull that off successfly.
Yeah. That
Yes.
picture,
That's
like
amazing.
from the crane, like looking down at the rover, I think that's probably the coolest picture I've ever seen.
Unreal. Yeah, and I'm excited because they have so many cameras on it. And also microphones too. I think they're still trying to get that stuff transmitted back because it takes a while, obviously, to process. But I'm really looking forward to like that IMAX movie quality with the Dolby surround sound of like, here's Mars's atmosphere as we're making the approach, and it's going to be so amazing. I mean,
Hell yeah.
just an incredible moment. And I mean, it's got a good chance of finding life too. I mean, we were talking about this in the chat the other day. It would be incredibly exciting if like we found like some kind of fossils of organisms on Mars. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be really cool. I've like set a live stream on NASA's YouTube channel, I think, to notify. I think that's when they expect to have like some footage coming through.
I don't know.
How do the microphones work?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how they're doing it or how it's worked. I mean, I think we've had this on like other missions too, where there's been like microphones to pick up audio. I'm not quite sure how they like managed to shield those from amazing pop filter on it. So I guess they don't have like I don't know, strange audio. But yeah, I don't know how it works exactly. It's a good question.
It's going to have to be
tree
quite
fall-
big
Yeah.
microphone with Mars's atmosphere, or lack
Yeah,
of.
what is the pressure of Mars's atmosphere?
It's pretty low. I mean, there's almost like non-existent atmosphere, right?
Interesting.
That's why it makes it so hard to land because you're coming in so hot. You don't have that braking that you can have when you're like re-entering into Earth, for example. So you just gotta slam on the brakes and the parachute. I mean, it's not really doing a whole lot, it seems. So they gotta like just fire the thrusters in reverse always. So making that approach is crazy.
Yeah.
Came in like a Perseverance Mars rover.
But they've got a drone on this one as well, don't they?
Yeah, little copter. That I think takes off in a couple months, I believe. And we've got a couple other missions coming down the line. There's this one that just got approved a year and a half ago, called Dragonfly. I'm not sure if you've heard about that one at all.
I recognize the name.
It's supposed to go to Titan. So it's going to be like an octocopter drone thing that is able to fly to its targets. And obviously the benefit of that is like you don't have to go at like 0.01 miles per hour with these rovers. You can just pick this thing up and fly it, I don't know, a couple hundred meters to the next site. And I mean, the issue is there's like that crazy signal delay too, like they had with obviously Perseverance going in. So like a lot of this is autonomous. Like they just set the thing to fly. It's just like that trust in the science is pretty wild, like believing that this is going to work and we're not just going to crash into like a rock or something. So yeah, it's incredible.
Imagine that, like in our lifetimes, having like, you know, really good footage of like other planetary landscapes, just like flying through them. Crazy.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
I did see the sunrise, I guess. The sunrise image. It was pretty famous.
Yeah.
I think I'll find the image. It's amazing. It's completely blue in color. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think I maybe mentioned this on a previous podcast, but I released about a year ago, I guess, this video where I worked with a scientist who simulated what sunrises and sunsets would look like on other planets, like I guess based on the atmospheric composition. I think I put this in the chat at some point, but it's a really cool piece where you just see like just how the color is totally different depending on the chemical makeup. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And on moons too, I think we simulated, I think like what it looked like on like Enceladus and Europa. It's crazy.
But yeah, I imagine this would get a lot of people interested in making all kinds of like environment artwork and stuff. I expect to see a boost of Rover images on ArtStation or something. But that's great because all this stuff inspires people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. You want to get people engaged with science and build the next generation of explorers. Because who knows, we might have to colonize Mars eventually to sustain our human existence. Who knows?
Yeah. Speaking of that, what's the state on SpaceX's Starship? Because they did the SN9 test, and I think they've got SN10 coming up. Maybe they'll land it this time.
Kev.
Hey, Kev.
Hey.
It's a good one.
Camera.
Yes.
Yes. Where's the branded background? Oh, there it is. Are you doing okay, Kev?
The new video is really good, by the way. I liked it a lot. The new video that you put up.
Oh,
It's
thanks.
really yummy. It's really good.
I
Thank you.
haven't watched it
It's
yet.
doing good as well, right?
Yeah, it's like something like over 10,000 views or 12,000 views or something.
Good.
It's
Yeah,
cruising.
it'll
I
pick
mean,
Not bad.
when I look at the stats, it says 3 times as many views as you usually get. So I said, that's good. I'll leave it.
Yeah, the algorithm's doing you well.
Yeah, so you guys were talking about like tags on videos and how they don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think
what is
they
the deal
do.
with that? I guess I hadn't been following what's going on with
well, I think just generally, like, YouTube's algorithm is just pulling in so many points of data now that just user-defined, like, tutorial, Blender, like, is just meaningless compared to all the data that they're using to point people towards your videos anyway. So they literally say where you enter the tags, it's not really going to do anything to help people find it, but if you've made, like, a spelling mistake somewhere, then this might, you know, correct that. So
yeah,
there was a thing I heard a few months, maybe years ago. So this might be completely out of date. But if you put something unique in your tags, it helps the recommended show more things with that tag in it.
Right.
So I don't know how accurate that is.
I imagine they're like scraping the actual audio of the video just to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they have like those auto-generated subtitles. I imagine like from that, and probably even from like some kind of deep learning image analysis of what's in your video, they can say like, oh, this looks like the Blender interface, and they mention like Blender 1,000 times in the video. It's probably a Blender video.
Yeah,
they definitely do
Probably.
something like that. I've done a couple of Google searches before, and it's actually come up with like 3 minutes 19 into this person's video is exactly what the search term that you've typed in.
It's useful when you're looking for something because then it just snaps you right to that like 5 seconds where it's like, oh, that's the tool that I need to use.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true about the timestamps. Have you ever Googled something and then in the preview, like at the top of Google, it has the video, but then it automatically puts you to a certain time in the video. So I think tags are just like they're just a barbaric old-fashioned thing now because they've got all this data. And it does make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because I guess there's 2 points about it. They want to stop creators from trying to manipulate like the algorithm, which people like, the people that put like 100 tags like under a video. And second to that is just making it, knowing what the people want before they know it. So like doing all this meta-analysis to see what kind of stuff they watch and what stuff's included in relevant videos. And so it does make sense.
I was gonna say, I kept seeing like my microphone like coming like on and off. I'm like, why is it like coming on and off in like a regular pace? Like, what sound is it picking up? Turns out it was like my money cat. Like, it's really sunny today, and it was like it's solar powered, so it was just like going crazy in the background.
Oh
So
man,
I moved that on the floor.
I'm not the only one, but I've got one.
Oh, nice.
Nice. What has everyone been up to this week?
I've been playing around with your modular metal pack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it any good?
It's so fun to play with.
Okay.
Yes, very good. Quite good.
Okay.
The Curtis mug I have around here somewhere.
Oh, fantastic.
But yeah, it's great. I was sharing some whips with Sharon. Sharon's been badgering me about putting out a new video, which is very helpful. He's very good about that.
Oh,
he is.
Here's to Sharon getting us to do stuff.
Yeah.
My last 2 videos.
Yeah.
The modular metal pack is really, I love the way you've got it laid out, Curtis. It's really user friendly. I like the categories you chose. The short form video was super helpful before I bought it. The long form video very helpful while I was sort of parsing through it.
Yeah. But well, that's really good to
highly
hear.
recommend those who are watching.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's really easy to get lost like with so much control, but yeah, once you get the hang of it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It looks really cool. I was gonna pick it up and then I got freelance requests and then I got busy and then
Such is life.
Yeah, that's how it goes. It's fine.
It's coming. It's coming. I'm gonna give it a thorough run through though.
Yeah.
I was gonna need it for the last freelance job, but then they went in a different direction. I'm like, well, okay, that's cool, fine.
Yeah.
All right.
I need to go back to it because like I've got big ideas for version 2, but it's such a big project now. But I think it'll be quite fun.
Yeah, this week because I have like a very different laptop now because I can't do much heavier stuff. So I stick to something less heavier, and I started making this couch shader recently, like this week. It turned out really good. Like people start actually buying it for because I gave it for free. People start buying it, and it kind of surprised me a lot. Like then maybe I should actually make it even better because I spent really less time on it and I'm not really satisfied with the result.
Was that like the pincushion one that you made? That's kind of like the
it's
yeah.
procedural
Cool.
cushion material. Yeah, it was. The wrinkles was the hard part, but then it was really cool to see how it turned out, honestly. But I did watch Substance videos on how they make it, like a long time ago. But then it came in handy to break down the material.
That's really
And
cool.
now I'm working on concrete shaders. Me and
Nice.
Curtis together.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Like-
we have an idea. We have an idea. Shh, everyone keep it on the low down. Maybe doing a collaboration thing, because I really wanted to, after modular metals, to do like a modular series. So modular metals, modular concrete, modular wood, or whatever. But like stone and concrete seems like something you can wrap together pretty well, because you know with node groups and artistic control, one can be the other. Like, so yeah, Charon's really good at doing patterns and the maths side of things, and my brain cannot compute that. So if he like experiments with all of that, I take that and then make something artistic with it. It seems like it would be a good combo. So I'm quite excited about trying that after I get the next video out. So yeah, we'll see. And it's quite nice that platforms like Blender Market allow for like the revenue splits and stuff.
That's
so
great.
That would make it easy if we did that. The only downside about that is Gumroad, because Gumroad doesn't have a proper revenue split system. They have affiliates, and this was something I emailed the CEO about, and we spoke very briefly about it. I asked him to put the revenue split system in, because they've already got the code there for it. They, like with the affiliate system, they already know how to share money between different creators registered on the platform at different percentages, and for some reason he couldn't understand it. He said, well, you know, if you want to split the money, just use affiliates. And I'm like, yeah, but what about sales not made on the links? And he's like, oh yeah, we'll only share the link. And I'm like, yeah, but you do realize your website has a discovery system. Like, did you forget about that? You're recommending products on it, so sales will be made on that. And he said, yeah, we'll see if we can get it added in 2020. That didn't happen. So, yeah, we'll see.
I have a very similar issue with Teachable, which is the platform I put a lot of my courses on.
Oh yeah.
And Teachable allows you to do like a split. So if they come to my site and I can sell something 50% me and 50% the company, for instance.
Yeah,
that's easy enough to do. But you can't do any other split. So in order to do, say, all of 6 people were working on a project and 4 were working on another project, you would have to create different profiles for those groups of teachers, and then after, in order to have a sales profile or like an instructor profile. But then after that, you still need to split the money up manually anyway at the end. So there's still a whole load of admin. That's the other option, of course, on Gumroad, is you just, okay, for every sale, we do the divide through, and then, I don't know, once a month or so, actually do a payout on it.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm worried about. I don't want to do manual payouts, because just for taxes, my taxes are so simple to do right now. Like, you know, it all comes in one direction, you know, you just enter the numbers, it's done. You know, stuff going out, it's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, you'd need to like put a line on that says, and 50% of this goes off to, or whatever the percentage
exactly was. And with the idea of like maybe in the future doing collaborations with other people, then it just gets a little bit messy in terms of scalability. So no, we've got to try and think of a solution for the Gumroad side of things. I don't know, you can disable the discovery system for all your products. I don't know if you can do it for single products, so I need to look into that. But then even then, people go to the profile on Gumroad, so they could find it through there. So we might need to sort something out. But at least Blender Market's perfectly fine with that system. So I guess this is just information for even anyone else out there that wanted to do collabs like that. That's something you need to be aware of.
Yeah, perhaps Blender Market is the go-to place for that at the moment.
Yeah,
you know, that's another option, is you don't put it on Gumroad.
Actually,
and you know, people are going to Blender Market looking specifically for Blender stuff too, so you're going to loop in people who are maybe not even looking for your product initially and just kind of stumble upon it and the discover recommended.
That's true. And that is one of the interesting things, actually, having a look at sales for the different products that I've put out on Gumroad and Blender Market. Almost all of them have sold better on Gumroad, except for Modular Metals, which has sold better on Blender Market. Now, I think that's because it's a more hyper-specific thing, and it is at a higher price point. And also, I think there's probably like a sense of value that comes with higher price points like that, and Gumroad I think people tend to associate with lower priced products generally. Yes, I think people have an impression of like a professional value when they look at a high value product on Blender Market when compared to Gumroad.
Yeah. Plus, Blender Market has the organic traffic that Gumroad doesn't have.
Yeah, that's true.
Like James was saying, like people are going on there and looking, and then stuff is getting suggested to them. I don't know how good the suggestion engine is, but it's there, so you'll see stuff.
And beyond that, I feel like there's a lot of like accounts like on Twitter and stuff that like actively promote cool discoveries, I guess, if you will, from Blender Market. It's like, oh, today there's like a 20% discount on this add-on or like on these procedural trees pack, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's like you get traffic from other social media sources coming.
Yeah,
It's very true.
It's very true in the courses space as well. So if you release a course on a platform like Udemy, everybody knows that's the bargain basement place. So you wait until the course could be listed at $1,000. It doesn't matter because at some point in this month it will be discounted to $9.99. Unfortunately, it puts a ceiling on and a ceiling on like each sale. So you're just wondering, well, actually, if I know CG Boost, for instance, their beginner course is absolutely brilliant, but it's £60 or $60, something along those lines, which is a lot for people around the world. So people naturally gravitate towards the cheaper end. But for each sale that you get on Udemy, you can make like an order of magnitude less sales on your own platform and still get slightly more income from it, which is it's just crazy the amount that they can take. But they have, as you're saying with Gumroad, they have searchability. People are familiar with the platform. It builds kind of a trust, and perhaps you get sales you would have never got anyway. So it's all a big gamble when it comes on where to put your products.
Very true.
Yeah.
It's also exposure to potential students, right? So even if you make less money putting your course on Udemy, those students might get to know you, like your teaching style, and then search you up on YouTube and follow you in that way over time.
Yeah, that's true. They will get more familiar with you because they've been exposed to you. So maybe a good option is put something that is more beginner friendly on Udemy, and then have the more hardcore stuff outside of that. I don't know. I mean, I've gotten some really good courses on Udemy for cheap, and then I've seen some other courses that I really want or wanted in the past that never dropped their price. I don't think Gleb 80 Space. I don't think they ever dropped the price there, and they never joined those monthly $9.99 Udemy price points. And there's another couple ones that I've seen that never dropped their price at all. So yeah, I think you can opt out of that.
Yeah, you definitely can opt out of it, but they also opt you out of a lot of other things as kind of an incentive not to.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
So yeah,
you've got to rely on your own marketing. They won't do any marketing for you. So you'll come up in their search, but that's it. You won't appear anywhere else. They won't do any adverts for you and things like that. So if you've got a good audience already, which I presume Gleb and AD would have had,
they did.
You can get a good chunk through.
Yeah, that's
through your own marketing.
Yeah,
that sounds like a very mafia thing to do. It's like, oh, okay, you won't sign up. Well, we're not gonna protect your content. How about we just stop people from seeing it?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's a game. I mean, I like Udemy because you can find those deals and you can get really good stuff. But at the same time, as a creator, I'm like, oh man, like it's just not. If you want to support yourself doing it, it's like, where's the incentive? Unless you have something that's so awesome that you're getting like 300 sales a week or something, then
it can be the biggest challenge is if you have a big run, and I have had this in the past, a big run of perhaps an affiliate's gotten hold of your course, so they're really pumping the marketing on it. Let's just do 10 to make it nice and easy. So there's already a bit of like the processing fee taken off, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
And then the affiliate will take 50. Udemy will take 50. Oh no, wait, they bought it on iOS or Google Play. So back at the top, they've taken 30 off. So you can end up with, on a worst case scenario, like 50 to $1, 50 cents to $1 from a sale of $10. And you're like,
wow.
And you can see you've got big numbers, and everybody thinks, oh, from the student's perspective, they've parted with $10.
Yep.
But when you're receiving, and I've seen it as low as like 18 cents before, especially now they've gone globally.
Oof.
So they will sell courses in different countries at different prices, and so you can end up with like 20 cents. And you're like, I really want to help support my students, but if I'm getting 20 cents for like a 30, 40-hour course, it's like if everybody asked for help, you would be just screwed as a tutor. You just cannot support people in the same manner that you can. Turn it on the other way. University, you pay at least $9,000 a year in the UK.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you to blenderize it, you cover pretty much everything that Blender would offer, and in depth with different tutors, etc. But that's part of why online learning is awesome and really crappy at the same time. Almost the strengths and weaknesses are opposites of one another. Like you can reach so many students, and it's really empowering. But then you can't reach those students to help them out on a personal level. And it's really challenging to be able to balance that, especially when you do get a lot of people say, "What do you think of my work?" And then it feels very samey, like you've almost got an autoresponder turned on.
Yeah,
it's genuinely how many times can you say that's really good for the stage you're at? Love to see your work. How about doing X, Y, or Z? I mean, I worked out once that if every one of my students asked me one question, it would take me something like 27,000 hours to actually answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I can't answer every question, but I jokingly say I'm watching.
The easy solution is we just make our own platform, right? Like we just got to make like a, I don't know, one where we don't take any commissions. It's just like a
the BlenderNest
Yeah.
Academy started here
Yeah.
today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Definitely.
it's true. It's it takes a lot of infrastructure, a whole lot of money to start the infrastructure for a site. But I mean, you could start on like WordPress, but you'll get hacked. So I don't know like what the answer to that is, other than marketing your stuff yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to know your average customer order value and your lifetime value, and there's a lot of metrics that you can pay attention to. But like, I mean, I've been an affiliate with Udemy forever, like even way before the Blender stuff. I think I've sold your courses. I saw that dinosaur one. Like I know I've
that's the
sold a
one.
number
Yeah.
of those for you over time, and because I see the breakdown of what I've sold come in. But there's one point where they dropped the commission structure on the affiliates, like by like 60 or so percent, and all of a sudden I'm getting less money. I'm like, why did I make I made so many more sales, but I get so much less money? And I figured out they dropped the commission rate. I'm like,
Yeah, they've changed things quite a bit. At one point they tried, unfortunately they kind of dug themselves into a people expect courses for $10, and I think they've turned it up slightly. It's now $12 or $13.
yeah,
But the problem is that people accept it's low. So at one point I think they experimented for about 3 months not having sales, and the whole platform took a nosedive because everybody was there for the it's just like Steam sales. We know Steam sales work.
Yeah.
Hands up who buys games every Steam sale and hasn't played them all yet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's that sort of thing, and if the price is right, people will buy.
There.
and it's a different thing with Blender, because it's largely a hobbyist and beginner 3D platform right now. That's changing. Like it's getting adopted into more professional workflows, but it's still like, I think the broad base is still relatively hobbyists and students and people who are new to 3D, who you're not gonna like. There's that threshold of, okay, how much do I spend on my hobby, or how much do I spend on my education versus what I get back. Whereas like somebody who's in the game, who's doing freelance, like if I see something that's like $100 out there, or $150, but it's something I need for that job, like I'm just gonna drop it and buy it and like get the job done, because it's just it's there. But I don't know like how much of that exists out there, because it's not in the Blender space
Hmm.
Well, it's very
right
true
now.
when
Yeah.
it comes to add-ons.
Mhm.
What you're saying there, if you suddenly get a project and you're like, oh, the scatter add-on would be amazing for this, or Grassweld, or any of the hundreds of other add-ons there are out there. Hard Ops is another very popular one. You just like,
Yeah.
okay, $30, and it's going to save me, or it's going to be I'm going to be able to produce twice as much in the same
Mhm.
time.
See, that's where Curtis, your modular metals would come in, because it makes it so much easier to get a really nice result really quickly. So if you're doing a freelance gig, or you're doing any kind of like studio work that requires metals, and you happen to be using the Cycles render engine, great. There, that's a no-brainer. Boom, instant sale at almost any price point. It'll work. Whereas like the hobbyists would look at that and go, I don't know, maybe. So it's a kind of like a fine line, but it's there. So I think it's a great price point, and it's totally useful. The shaders for that are always a good idea. Just like hard ops is always a good idea because it's a total time saver. You can plug this in, you can get this result, and bam, it's done. Your client's happy, you're happy, everybody's happy, and the creator of the software is happy. So it's all win-win. Courses seem to be a bit different. Courses fall more in the education stuff, but like, as a professional, I've bought tons of courses, just learning stuff because I need it. Like if I don't know how to do something and I know a course is out there and somebody knows how to do that and I can't find it elsewhere and I don't have the time to like play around and, try to figure it out, I'm like, I'll just buy the course. Learn it.
I've bought courses before, and I've got a threshold. Everybody's got a threshold of how much they're willing to part, and especially when things are covering beginner stuff as well. You're like, well, some of this is going to be useful for me in the later sections, sort of thing. But I've bought courses before just specifically because they cover something really well, so I might only buy it for 10% of that course because I know that's like the particle system in Blender. It's changing all the time. That'd be a great example if someone did an up-to-date course on how that's all working, and just to get the 1, 2, 3 settings, because there's some of the sliders in Blender, some of the fields, they take in values that are like 0.0001. They're very unintuitive values that you have to type in, and other ones will be in the thousands. So if you're lighting a scene, okay, we're putting a megawatt of energy. I'm so glad I found that feature. I don't know if you all know that you can actually type in like 1 MW and it will put in, capital MW, and it'll put in 1 megawatt of light energy or 1 kilowatt.
And a lot of times you end up needing that because you're like, why is my light not showing up? And all of a sudden you type in megawatt, you're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. I just keep adding zeros.
Just keep adding zeros. Exactly. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Oh, now I see it. Now I see my object. What? That's like a trillion candles. Why does it take that? I don't know.
I was gonna say I always forget to click like the normalize if you're ever like using like the graph editor, because it like sometimes you have like insane differences between values if you're like editing kind of like the slopes on things. If you normalize, it all brings it between like 1 and -1. It's like okay, nice.
Like I haven't really sold anything yet. Like I've been an affiliate, so I recommend courses to people that I think are really awesome. But other than that, like, I haven't sold anything yet, so I'm really not one to talk, but I'm all ears listening to, you guys out there that are selling stuff.
Yeah, pricing for products and stuff, Archer, I'll come to you afterwards. We'll just put a little bookmark there. The pricing is very weird, I found, like with the Blender community compared to like other CG spaces, because it's taken like a fair amount of research just to kind of get to an idea of what people are willing to pay. Because if you've seen on like 3D model websites, people would do pretty useless but cool hyper-specific models for like extreme amounts of money, hundreds, thousands, and I think it's because they only intend to sell one, pretty much, in like the entire lifespan of that object. And it's not really multi-purpose because a lot of them are hyper-specific. And then when it comes to things like tools, like even procedural tools, scripted tools, whatever, these things are like they would traditionally be super expensive, like hundreds, thousands of dollars or whatever, because of like you would assume there's an investment of time that's gone into making it, and then the amount of time that it saves overall, and then even access to a code base that you'd think that would typically increase the price as well, because if it's not like closed and encrypted proprietary stuff and it's open, then they need to recoup the costs of whatever, I don't know, people remaking, reselling, modifying, whatever. But the Blender space is weird because you have things that should be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars completely free, and and vice versa pretty much. And when you look at stuff like procedural tools, especially the procedural materials, because I think Aaron's done a really cool wood one before, and you think, okay, well, look at all the companies that are selling single textures for woods, and like making all the money from that. Procedural ones can be baked out if you wanted. You've got access to 1,000, 1,000,000 different textures if you wanted. So all this money that's being spent on buying individual things, it feels really disproportionate. And that was one of the weird things about pricing modular metals, because you're like, okay, well, the potential is worth thousands. The tool isn't worth much, because it's just a simple blend file. Anyone can break it open. The nodes aren't anything particularly unique. It's just about the layout. So where do you price it along that line? Because any of these values is possible. And you're like, okay, well, people are used to paying within this bracket. So it's like under $100 or whatever. And then I look at the kind of highest amount that people are generally selling for, and then I plonk it there. And I'm like, okay, well, only a very few people are going to buy this compared to the total number of people that see it. But that's fine, because that'll be just like the expensive, not expensive, flagship product. And then the idea is that you can just modify it and add to it over time. But yeah, it's been very weird. And it's also weird when you get feedback from people that's like, oh, it's too expensive or it's too cheap. You're like, I agree with both of you. It's a bit weird, because where exactly do you put that line? Yeah. And the GPL license confuses things, especially when it comes to add-ons, because add-on creators don't feel like they can sell something. Well, of course they can, and people do, and they make a fair amount of money from it. But some people don't feel like they can because of the GPL license. If it's just code that interfaces with the BPY API, then anyone can share that legally for free. And if that's the case, then why let people go somewhere else to download it? Why not just make it free and have everyone come to you and use it as like an advertisement spot? Because if they come to you to download it because it's free, then you can push them to other products and other things that you have going on. So it feels like there's this kind of funnel where creators feel like they need to make everything for free in that regard. And I was having a look on a couple of Discord servers recently, one of them where people were like saying, oh, does the GPL mean that I can share things on Blender Market for free with my friends? And the answer is no. Generally, no, you can't. You need to be very specific about what that means. Because a lot of product packages come with not just code, but also artwork and things, like scatter. And it's only the code files, essentially, that interface with BPY that are meant to adopt the GPL license. Everything else is whatever other license you like, royalty-free, or if you're, very generous, MIT, possibly. So yeah, these are just all things that people should keep in mind. But I know that Michael wanted to speak, but we'll go to Arturo if you've got something to say.
We've covered a lot of ground, but when we were talking earlier about courses and what people are willing to pay, because I think it kind of relates to this, I was going to talk about community and how I think that has a huge impact on it, because if you have a course on a website that's not really giving you any dividends or sort of paying it back or paying it forward to you, then in some ways I think that's fine, because you're on another platform and you're just adding to that community. And so building that community of students and people who are engaged with you and your content can also help in situations in which you can't reach every single one of your students if you have a really strong community of people that are willing to help each other and to give each other feedback. So that's sort of one point that I was thinking about when we were talking about that. But to bring it back to what you were just talking about now, I think modular metals is underpriced based on the way that I go about purchasing things. And for me, I know I've talked about this on here before. I think even on the first time I was on here with CG Matter, before I dove even deeper as I have now into Blender, but I think it still stands in and outside of Blender that it's everything, at least in my experience, is like the value that you extract from it and what you can extract from it. So maybe I buy modular metals for whatever it's priced at now. But if that means that I can then break it down, decompose it, and then see what you were thinking about when you were grouping things together for my own use, make like modular clouds or something. I don't know, clouds is the first thing I thought of, but like modular waves or modular concrete or modular what have you, then whatever I spent on it is going to pay itself back so many times in terms of knowledge. And I think that that's something that's really valuable in this community specifically. And I've said this specific thing before. To me, it's like buying a new Lego kit. So if you download something or if you buy something, you're just adding more tools to your toolbox. You're adding more I forget what they call them, but like just different packages of Legos. So maybe I'll take this like Marvel superheroes Legos here and combine it with this other like Gothic whatever and make something cool, because there's just so much out there. So maybe you can't afford that $45 add-on, but there is a free one online that sort of gets you halfway there to having whatever idea or moment of like aha and serendipity that you needed to get to in order to understand how the other one was made, or sort of what's lacking, or what the bridge or what the gap is between where you are and what you wanted, where you want to be or what you wanted to do. And I think that there's huge value in that. Obviously, not everybody looks at this, and like I know this because of what you all have shared about sort of these experiences with people thinking that something's underpriced, overpriced, or whatever. But not everybody's going to go and buy an add-on and then feel like they got exactly what they were looking for, or put in the effort to, and we talked about this in the previous Holtcast episode, like pivot to going like, okay, maybe this wasn't what I was thinking, but what can I glean from it? And I think that that's huge, and something that I see very, like a very strong personality trait of the Blender community as a whole is that sort of that like readiness to learn and to engage with things.
Yeah.
That is really exciting. And so sort of bringing it all full circle, I think community is huge, and it's in many ways, whether it's like learning, being engaged, marketing as well, and then furthering one another, it's all sort of part of this greater whole.
Yeah.
Well said. And hello, Markom.
Community.
Hey,
Hey, Markom.
I'm gonna need to do a compilation of that one day.
Edit them all together.
Yeah. Yeah. How you doing, Markom?
Killing myself. I don't know why, but I'm trying to do this short film in 10 days for a local short film festival.
Oh yes.
You know, going to bed at 2 a.m., waking up at 7, living the dream. Dab.
Living the dream.
Oh wow.
The sun is shining there, though. It looks happy.
It's majestic.
Looks lovely.
Son.
So that's at least.
Hang on, I'll turn a corner in a sec. But so yeah, it's not too bad. Trying to do a lot of it on live stream, but still not try and give away the whole story.
Yeah.
So it was I had a bit of a challenge yesterday where the motion capture suit wasn't working for like 20 minutes as I was trying to find the loose cable, and eventually it was the main cable that was loose. After 10 months, I discovered, so this is a fun fact that it's only a little side note, but a motion capture suit needs an external power source as well.
Oh, wow.
So that's why my tracks have been they've been good, but they could be better. But if you're using, especially with a perception neuron, if you're using more than 18 sensors, it's recommended to have a power pack as well. And I was like, okay.
To the audience, stay tuned for that short film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
If you want to find out what we're working on, or you just want to be a part of a bigger community, why not hit that like and subscribe button if you like what we're talking about. Subscribe if you don't want to miss a thing, because the algorithm is going to bury us. Don't let it.
It oftentimes feels like the algorithm's going to bury us no matter what we do.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yes. There are times you get blessed by the algorithm and times you get buried by it.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to having that blessing one day.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of enjoying it right now. It's not. I don't think it's going to last, but I'm kind of happy right now.
Don't worry. Given how random things are, statistically speaking, Markom, you're going to get a blessing sometime.
It's going to happen.
If I just keep pushing out videos, I'll do a Grant Abbott, and then something will happen.
Yes. Yep. They will, yeah. Just playing with statistics.
Exactly. I'm at about 545 videos now.
Whoa.
Damn.
Yeah. I'm catching up to Grant. I want to beat Grant.
Oh,
what does he have now?
He's 740.
Oof.
Whoa. That dude
so I'm chasing him down.
Nice.
That was my goal.
James, I've been enamored by your vacation spaces renders lately.
Yeah.
Every time I see one, I'm just like, and I know you, just recently, I think you put sort of like a brief breakdown of how you did one, or maybe it was in the comment section or something, but I really enjoy those too. Because I know
it's like a real life put out.
Much, so it's always fun to see those.
Yeah, I know. I should definitely post more like stuff on my YouTube. I think like I post like maybe once every like 2-3 weeks or something. I like often like forget to like start up OBS and like screen record something. Like I like to talk about the process for these things. I think those videos are a lot of fun to make. But then like I'm not sure if something is going to really pan out when I start it, so I don't want to like have all this editing after the fact. For like I've been working for like half hour, 45 minutes, and something is just going to be sitting on my hard drive. But the one I posted recently, I'd actually recorded. I'm like, oh, this is actually not bad. Let me like make a little breakdown for this guy. But yeah, it's been crazy busy. So I mean, it's nice to kind of make these like relaxing renders because I feel like they give me like a moment of zen, however briefly. So that's nice.
Are you on the moon?
I wish.
Okay, because I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like your audio is like 8 minutes away from your video.
a sync, yeah.
Yeah, our internet's a little bit slow here. I'm up at my parents'.
It's fine. The audio is coming through fine, worries. So that's fine.
Yeah, I got like one of those snowball microphone things finally, because I mean I gotta improve myself. Like again, I haven't like been really doing too much of the YouTube stuff for a number of years. So like the camera I have is one that I used back when I was like making YouTube videos in like middle school or something. So it's like this like old Logitech camera. I've got a Sony A7R II, I think it is. And I think you can connect those to the computer, but like I've somehow like misplaced the cable that like connects it to the computer. So I'm slowly like building up the setup. I just built a new computer back in December. I've been putting off doing that for a while. I've been using like my gaming laptop. I think like the last time I was on the podcast, I was still like using that laptop, which like sounds like a jet engine in the background, like when it's running. So like we're making progress. We're getting better. You know, we're moving towards like the ultimate setup. And eventually my video will match my audio, and that'll be an amazing day. When that happens, the planets will align. We will all transcend. It would be peace on Earth. So we'll see.
Looking forward.
All right.
How many videos?
Oh, it said that I had about 100 or just over.
I have 22. It looks like.
I've got 36 on mine, and I've been doing one a day for this month.
I got like 5.
How many do I have? I have no
This
idea.
is so cringy. It's like comparing KDs.
Yes, let's not compare the KD.
What matters is the team wins.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? I love games that don't show how many deaths you've had at the end of the match.
So we've been playing a bit of Warzone, and I always have this little cringy moment right when, because as you finish the round, it says how many kills you got and then how many assists or something like that.
Yeah.
And then right after that screen, it shows you how many deaths, and I just wish it wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, just like, oh wow, 2 kills, 3 assists. Awesome. And then right after, 28 deaths. I was like, no.
This is an Australian $5 note.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me make you big. There we go. Right.
That is an Australian $5 note.
It's fancy.
That looks like
Plastic.
Yeah.
It is plastic.
We still have
But
paper.
our 100 is a green, our 50 is a purple, our 20 is a red, and our 10 is a blue.
That's fun. Everything we have is just green.
I'll see if I can get them and I'll take a photo.
This is a Bitcoin.
Yes.
That's right.
Very good. Now, speaking of Bitcoin, does anyone want to talk about Cryptoart?
I'll go. See you later, mate.
Man.
Yeah. I'm just about to start selling stuff on Super Rare. I think I'm trying to like get my stuff up and I'm running on there. So initially very hesitant to do it, but it seems like an interesting thing. It's just like I kind of want to give it a shot. You know, if it doesn't work out, it's low barrier to entry initially. You can pull yourself out, but it seems interesting.
Yeah.
Here's a quick plug. Any of you want to do a drop, let me know, and we'll host a drop party right before you do the drop, just to test it out. Just because, why not? Just why do it? Why do a silent one? You know, just be loud and see how it goes.
That's true. Yeah, I applied to Super Rare. I don't know if I'll go through with it, but it has been interesting. The ecological factor is a concerning one.
That's what was stopping me.
I was listening into Clubhouse when people was having that chat. Arturo, you pinged me to it. It was very interesting. I only listened to a little bit. I didn't hear much about any kind of answers or any solutions. Just a lot of people going, "Oh yeah, it's very concerning. We'd like to find more solutions." But I don't think I stayed long enough for any actual solutions. But it's nice.
Yeah.
Be nice for if there are any, them to be made a bit more public, because that seems to be one of the main barriers at the moment, like one of the main weapons against crypto art.
It's a
There's
really
been
valid
a-
one too. It's just so inefficient with the calculations that have to be made each time you make a transaction or anything. It's just really, I don't know, they somehow need to speed that up. If you look at like the crazy like network fees too, just to transfer like Ethereum between things, it's just like ridiculously expensive just for the compute power that's required behind the scenes to do these things. And there's got to be a better way or better currency or something used to make it a bit more efficient and not burn. I mean, people talk about like Google searches as well, obviously burn a lot of energy too. You know, all of these things it's an issue with computer power. And I guess we kind of pass it off as this intangible thing because it's not directly affecting like our machine when we're doing it. You know, it's some distant supercomputer cluster, you know, up in Norway or wherever, but it's like, you know, it's obviously making an impact, and I feel like they don't necessarily publicize that out. Maybe there isn't even the data on it. Like, I think the initial article that I saw was someone had made a post on Medium about this.
Yeah.
And they kind of broke down, like, hypothetically what things would cost based on, like, what information was publicly available out there, but there really isn't really enough to even draw on to make some of these conclusions. Imagine it is bad, but can't really, like, I guess, quantify it exactly with what we're working with now. So it is concerning. I echo your point with, like, there's got to be a solution. Hopefully we can get that out there. But it's just taking off so quickly that like just the cart is ahead of the wheels here. Like we got to just kind of just slow it down a little bit, but it's just been bursting so quickly. I mean, if you look at like Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these things, they're just skyrocketing in value. And this is just exploding. Like every week, it seems like some creator makes like $3 million selling their collection. So it's tough because there's such a hype for it that it's only going to keep going up, which at the same time could bring in more people who are interested in it, who could have better, efficient ways to approach this whole thing. So I guess it kind of expands the base a bit more, which is good.
Yeah.
Something I've heard that was interesting was this one creator. I can't remember who it was specifically, but it was somebody on Clubhouse that was talking about that. They made a sale and they made a lot more than they expected from that sale. So much so that they're going to take that amount of money from the sale and help other creators pay off their own gas fees and stuff if they want to come in. And then I think it was in the Beeple, which is, it doesn't offset the cost of minting a piece of art, and it doesn't fix the problem, but it's definitely, at least in terms of helping people get on board with it and get started, very helpful. I think it was in the Beeple talk as well. Yeah, I think there's a lot of obviously very worrying ecological impact on it. But something that someone asked was, you know, are all the people that are raising their hands asking, like, what about the ecological impact? You know, not taking transportation, vegan, you know, and all these other things that really also affect the environment that are so much easier to do or take part in than like not minting a piece of crypto art. There was one more thing that I'm blanking on now, but it will come back to me, and I will go like this.
I was going to say, on the point of Cryptoart, I think this might fall very much on the same side as the pros and cons of something like an electric car as well, because a lot of people compare them to whatever the general electricity generation is. Yeah, if you live right next to a wind farm, you would generally, because of the way electricity works, get your electricity from that wind farm. So is that greener? Is that a greener Bitcoin or Ethereum than the one on solar panel? If you've got a whole roof of solar panels, I used to have a 10 kilowatt array at my last place. So in like the peak of summer, I would be getting 7-8 kilowatts of energy, and obviously my electricity company would just be selling it off. But if I was just converting that into Bitcoin, is that green Bitcoin? Is it not? You know, and if I had been doing it back then, I'd probably be, you know, plus 500k by now with the way it has gone absolutely crazy. But there's a lot of this, it's dirty, and that exists a lot with electric cars as well. But there's kind of, you need to look at the whole ecosystem as a whole. You know, what are the transport costs of setting up this equipment, of the actual construction of a GPU? Would that GPU end up in landfill if it wasn't being used for mine? It gets very woolly very quickly.
The other point was every time you open an account, you know, every time you spin up a new account on Pinterest and then you never open it again or you never touch it, that also has an impact. And you don't really think about it, kind of like James was saying, if it's not directly influencing the way that our machine runs. You don't think about it so much, but it does have a huge impact. So I think there's a lot of value to that criticism directed at the people who are criticizing crypto art specifically, of thinking or stopping to ask the question like, okay, sure, this has a very direct impact on the environment, but so does the meat that you eat, so does where you buy your food or where you buy your whatever. And these are things that we need to think about when we sort of try to make decisions on spaces like this, because I think it would be a little bit silly to like cancel crypto art based on this specific, rather than trying to fix the problem, because there's so much value gain from crypto art specifically. Like, just think about the Beeple case, because it's the one that's kind of most prolific. Somebody who's been doing artwork for decades and giving out so much for free and not really asking much for in return, finally gets to sort of jump on this platform and I don't want to, well, I mean, really it is capitalize on all this time spent, all this effort devoted into this art. And so a lot of artists who normally wouldn't see the light of day in the traditional media are now getting to sort of have their moment in the limelight on this space. Granted, there is a lot of art, as I think I've mentioned both privately and publicly, that I don't, it's not something that I would buy or something that I would put up if I had worked on it. But at the same time, that's you get the same sort of effect and quality of experience if you go to an art gallery in person. It's just a little bit more exclusive, and I think part of what makes crypto art appealing is that it can be very inclusive. If you don't necessarily pick one of these platforms like Super Rare or these other platforms that are kind of curated, and as we move towards like more decentralized systems of social media, finance, and even these art galleries and the like, it's going to be really interesting to see the sort of things that people come up with, make, share, explore. So I'm excited for that. And
yeah. Do we think there may be a solution in terms of like that the ecological factor? Maybe the issue is that these things are interconnected. Because when we talk about like renewable energy and non-renewable energy, like it kind of comes to the same grid, right? So because of that and things that siphon off the grid, it's very difficult to say, as you were talking about, Michael, whether or not something can be considered a green result of that. So maybe, to simplify things, there's a solution in having disconnected networks or grids where you have renewable computation, where you can say it's renewable because it's only run on renewable energies, like on a separate grid. So maybe that's some kind of possibility, because then you can say, okay, well, that's we can't directly track that to having a negative effect anymore. So yeah, maybe there's something there. There's also the philosophical factor. I'll come to James. Is that you that wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'll finish your thought.
Okay. So there's also the philosophical factor, which is the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around, which is the idea of having ownership over something digital is, to most people, I think, generally, outside of this community, pretty stupid. Because you can replicate something byte for byte, bit for bit in digital space. So what is the point of having ownership over something, as it's just a concept? Whereas, like, with physical artwork, there is, objectively, only one piece of original artwork, right? And limited versions of things have proper physical material meaning, because they are literally limited. Like, you cannot make copies of that. The only thing in the digital space that would say this is the original is if the creator says, yep, that's the original one right there, that one specifically there. So that's a point of discussion that I think people outside of the community have the hardest point getting their head around. So if we have effective ways to communicate that sense of ownership to people, maybe that would help the rather outside perspective get more on board with the idea of crypto art. So what's the most effective way of explaining that to people? So I think, did James, you wanted to also say something?
Yeah, that's a similar point I was going to make. I mean, like, I guess this almost kind of goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about selling things on BlenderNest and kind of attaching a price tag to it, because that's just the nature of our field, that everything's digital. So it's hard to exactly quantify it. It's not like you're buying like a toothbrush or something, or you're buying like a new camera or something physical that you have. Like, you're buying a piece of digital work, which it's like, how do you define what that should be in terms of monetary value? And that's just the issue with our field. And it's great, like, I think Arturo brought up the example of Beeple selling his work for a couple $1 million. I mean, that's great to see, and it kind of gives value to our field as a whole and kind of holds it up to I guess, stuff that you see like a Sotheby's type of auction where you have these paintings that someone's put together selling for that same price there too. So it's, I guess, nice that we're starting to attach more value to the work that we do, because it is obviously very similar work to a lot of other artists who are doing physical creations. It's just we're doing this in a digital space. We're still investing all the resources to buy software, to buy courses, to buy add-ons and everything. We're investing the time to actually create things as well. And then we're putting it out there to the public. So it makes sense, I guess, to kind of try to build a market around that. And it's good to see that now getting a bit more value added to it. But it is still difficult to wrap your head around it, because it is this digital ones and zeros thing that's existing out there that's somehow like a unique, tokenized piece of work. So it's strange to kind of wrap your head around what that means. So
to continue off James' point, like using Beeple again as an example, I think it's really exciting to see the merging of worlds. So now Beeple is Christie's, which is a private like auction house that does these sales of, I don't know. I don't know if they do like mammoth bones, but if you could think about, the sort of things that they would sell, and have never sold anything that doesn't actually exist, that's not tangible, that's digital. But now they're considering it, and not only are they considering it, they're going to do that. They're going to do their first NFT sale. That's a non-fungible token. With people, and so that kind of adds this validity, if that's maybe the right word to use or to think about it, and to our field and to what we're doing, because this is something also that people and PlayStation, Joshua, David, one of people's like friends and inspiration, we touched on briefly on that in that conversation, is that back in '99 when they were doing flash art or what have you, like people just looked at it and were like, okay, that's kind of cool. You made a thing that some years later is going to be called a GIF or something, or that, okay, cool. Why is that important? But it is a form of self-expression that does have value, if beyond the value that it already has to the person that made it. And so when we start pushing towards having more people have eyes on the space, and not only just that, but like with communities like Blender's, people taking part in this space, the forms of self-expression not only have the inherent value that the person gives them when they're making it, creating it, sharing it, but also now with the outside eyes, you can match up to like Picasso or somebody else who might be in one of these galleries, because it's no longer this to pun intended, like tokenized piece of work, and it just I think that's really exciting, because it's giving people the space to and the room to take part in these larger conversations, like I want to be in this auction house, but also make money and earn a living off of their work when it wasn't really something that was possible before. Like the amount of times that I've seen somebody on Twitter in the past couple of weeks say, I just paid off X amount off my mortgage, or I just paid rent for my mom for this long, doing what I love to do, as opposed to, like for me, something that's really frustrating is the thought of having to go do something I don't want to do for someone I don't want to work for. That's just the way that I am. There's totally obviously nothing wrong with people earning a living doing that, but it's something I don't want for myself, right? And so it's really empowering for me, and really exciting, and really I don't know, I just get really enthusiastic when I read one of these tweets or comments or hear from somebody like, I was able to make a living doing what I wanted to do, like expressing myself, using my art, using my tools. The time spent on this, on learning how to use it, on sharing, was had its returns. And I also, just the way that, not to go on too much of a tangent before you jump in, Kev, but like the way that the communication and conversations about Ethereum tokens and contracts specifically is moving is really interesting. And I think I've touched on it briefly here too, but like thinking about how just recently there was a Street Fighter card drop. So you can have Street Fighter cards that are animated GIFs essentially that you hold in your wallet, your crypto wallet. And so you can also like burn these. So you can say like, I own this card that has this specific address attached to it, and I'm going to combine it with this other card to make a different card as we would back in the like Pokemon card trading days, but then they don't exist anymore. You don't hold them, but now you have the super card that is like of a limited run, right? And similarly, you could like buy 3 songs from Deadmau5 or something and then merge them together and never be able to sort of listen to them again or hear them again, but you know that you own them. And on top of that, or on the tail of that, you also now have access to this token that was generated from it. So it's kind of like this cool energy sort of like anti-thermodynamics thing that like allows us to create new things from things that didn't exist before by like just, I don't know, it's so trippy and so cool to me that I think that it's got like a huge future ahead of it.
Yeah. That was awesome. I was gonna just add in, like, for people who don't quite grasp what we're talking about, like, what is owning a share of a financial company, right? What does Goldman Sachs do?
I don't think I can say without getting told
I
off.
mean,
This is not financial advice.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to approach.
I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying, like, what do companies like that do? Like, they basically skim off transactions. Like, what does an investment brokerage do? Like, they skim off the top of transactions, right? They're not making anything. Sure, like, the actions that they do can help companies that make tangible products money, so they can make more tangible products, so they can pull more stuff out of the earth and create it and craft it into something, and you can hold it in your hand. But like, what they do, so owning a share of stock in who they are, you're basically owning nothing other than perceived value in a fiat currency system, right? I mean, all of our money's not like backed by gold anymore, right? It's backed by debt, right? It's fractional reserve banking. So it's just like, you're just cutting it up and you're creating basically value, tradable value out of debt, right? So it's like the same thing with this NFT stuff. It's like, you're to grasp the concept of it. Yeah, I can't hold it in my hand, but can you hold a share of Goldman Sachs in your hand? No, you can't. You're basically investing in vapor, but it has value because of the value that we attach to it, the value that other people attach to it. Yeah. Right, the perceived value, the value.
Nothing is real in life anymore.
Imagination.
That's what I'm going at. Like, it's really like,
I mean, it's a good point.
So it's like the same thing. So like, understanding what crypto art is, it's basically the very similar thing to like owning a share of stock in a financial company that actually just makes all of their money basically skimming off transactions from other people, right?
That makes me think about like, how far from reality do you have to go before it becomes obvious that something is non-existent, right? Mm-hmm. Because like, when you think about money, okay, well, the idea of money, or like the transactions of money digitally, they're non-existent, right? But they link back via a thread to reality in some way, even if it's like a note or a promise, the physical things you buy with it, or the bullion, the value of money is connected to, or things like that. So there's a more obvious thread there. With like stocks and whatever, it's like another step disconnected, because the company as an idea is abstract, but the paperwork behind the company is real, and the offices and the buildings behind the company and the people behind it is real. So that as a concept is like a physical material thing, but the stock is not real, but it's still connected to physicality just by like a longer thread. So it's like, okay, well, maybe NFT stuff and crypto art is even further away, like on a thread. Because what's that connected to physically? You think, okay, well, it's connected to the artwork, but the art isn't really real because that's digital as well. Is it connected to the creator? But you're not owning the creator by owning the token. So it's like as that thread gets longer, it kind of fades and becomes less obvious. So yeah, it's just an interesting thing to think about.
While you're owning, vapor, one thing I wanted to add there that came to mind from the conversations that I've taken part of and overheard is that, like, for example, 3Lau, who's this artist, just to not like pigeonhole him into one specific thing, and Deadmau5 and all these other artists that are taking part in this crypto space now can have a one-to-one relationship with the person who's purchasing their artwork, where before, if they were selling an experience or a concert or what have you, or some piece of merch, there's so many middle people between them and the artist. And this is something that maybe isn't important to you. If that's not something that you value, and that's totally fine. But if you do want to have that one connection, to some degree, like Curtis and everybody else on here can know such and such with this email address purchased my pack of whatever. But, there's also, I don't know, there's something to that being able to track that and to have that like part of, as part of the blockchain and part of the whole bit about this is that it's, a verifiable address, and that there's sort of this ledger of every transaction that's been made. And and so when you think about it in that terms, it gives a sense of like sovereignty and ownership back to the artist, and allows for if the artist wants to, like, to have that connection, and you can reach out and say like, hey, I noticed that you purchased my piece of crypto art like this, like, how would you like to display it? And that's another interesting question that I've been dwelling on it quite a bit, because I do want to jump into this space, but I don't know if I would sell a high resolution JPEG of a piece of my art. I would want to do something a little bit more than that. And I know that somebody purchased a piece of people's artwork recently. They got in touch with people, and people sent them over some files. And so now they've created this augmented reality experience that you can actually use as a sort of like Instagram or a Snapchat filter. And anybody can go and see this person's piece of artwork. And I think I've talked about this on here before. I talk to you guys so much that I forget if I have, but if I haven't, or if this is your first time hearing it, isn't that so cool? Like, you could buy a piece of art from Curtis, let's say, or James, or anybody on here, and then just display it on your own gallery, wherever you are in the world. And you can shape and craft these experiences as you wish, because you have that connection. So one of the things that people were saying at the end of that chat was like, if somebody buys one of these everydays, I want to get in touch with them to see how they want to see it displayed. And like, some people want it on a monitor, and that's another huge conversation that's happening right now about this, is like, okay, so I bought this piece of digital art. What do I do with it now? I hold it in my wallet, right? But like, people are now out buying monitors and Chromecast just to have it plugged in so they can showcase their art. But other people don't want that. It's like, I want it in my pocket in a filter. And so it opens up this whole new world and can of worms of displaying and sharing art. That's really exciting. Like, for example, like augmented reality filters and augmented reality glasses go hand in hand to make a really awesome experiment about fashion. Right? Because now you can express yourself however you want. If you've got like a filter that people, I'm wearing my glasses, but like Curtis has a specific, I keep coming to you, Curtis, because you're like the one right underneath me on the screen. But like Ellie, right, has this specific thing coded into whatever metaverse, openverse, internet magic that we want. And now I see them through my augmented reality glasses the way that they want to be seen, wearing whatever cool procedural fashion they want. Like, that to me is really exciting. And people keep coming back to like Ready Player One. Yeah. And I did enjoy that movie a lot. But I think we are nearing some form of like hyper collaborative, inclusive digital world. And I hope that when we take part in these conversations, we gear ourselves to not copy and paste the same errors of our current world into that, because then it's all for naught. There's so much promise there, but doesn't necessarily mean that all the things that are working now will transfer. And so, I don't know. I'm really excited, especially obviously being part of these conversations with you all, because we don't necessarily all think the same way or agree on the same things, and like, hearing each side of it is always really helpful for the next
Love
discussion.
Your enthusiasm, Arturo, just like oozing with this like energy about crypto art. And I've been into it a little bit too. I've been listening to various conversations on Clubhouse, talking to Arturo about it, following like, the whole like people evolution, people entrance into the space. But I actually have never heard someone pose the question that you did, Curtis, which is like, what I through everyone's comments, I'm trying to like follow like the philosophical like thread through it all. Yeah. And so this is a question that I have. It's like, what's the point of an original if it doesn't actually exist singularly in reality? Which is what you're getting at, Curtis, which is that like digital art can be recreated. Like you can make another render, and it's not terribly difficult to do. And why should we as a society like value an original if it can literally be recreated? Which is a great question. And I think the answer most people would give you is we should value it because we should value the artist's time and effort.
Yeah.
Which I think we're all down with. Like, we all agree with that. But when we value like originals in this way, and I don't know if that's the best way of like honoring an artist's time, energy, and effort. It might be just recreating the same system, like this obsession with like, I have this original thing that no one else has, and because of the scarcity of this thing, it is valuable, right? And even though there's like a payout to the artist, which makes me think about earlier when we were talking about pricing various like Blender add-ons. Like, there's people who sell like a specific kind of model on like ArtStation, for example, or a Sketchfab, and someone will buy that model of like a little cherub. It's like painted, but you can't really like remix it in a lot of ways. But people will still like shell out lots of money for that one model. Whereas like if you purchased modular metal pack, you could incorporate that into your work, and it might be more useful over time. So like, how can we as artists like encourage other people to think about valuing art in terms of remixing instead of like originals? And this kind of speaks to what you're saying, Arturo, about like the presentation. The presentation of the art is also really important, right? Because like, when I think about joining the crypto art space, like, I don't want to just put up a JPEG, you know? Like, that's kind of boring because you can do so many other things. Like, Puckrender, for example, is a crypto artist. He's got sort of a big following on Instagram, and he just created this metaverse where, sort of like a VR experience, where he created this planet, and you can sort of travel on the planet and interact with different installations on the planet. But when you listen to him speak about this piece, he isn't so excited about his own planet. He's excited about the potential of other artists having their own planets within this created universe.
Yeah.
So he's already thinking about how this can be remixed in a bigger, better, more creative and collaborative way.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea, actually. But
yeah.
I have just remembered something, because I had a discussion about crypto art with one of my moderators, and about the point of ownership. For me, I'm still like, I love the idea of crypto art, because I love the idea of, I think it'd be really fun, like as Arturo was saying, like just having ownership over artwork and being able to display that in whatever way you feel creative enough to do it. But I think there needs to be something more than just the idea of ownership. Because ownership itself it's not tangible. It's so easy to disregard. Oh, you have a token? Yeah, well, I've got the file as well. So what worth is your token? Like, you know, oh, this website says you own it, you know, like whatever. What if rights were also transferred? Not entire rights, but let's say that someone that has the token, the creator agrees that the owner of the token also has rights to modify or to like display the art somewhere, or use it in a commercial project or something.
Mechanical rights.
Yeah, because rights can be connected to the physical world again, because it means that someone can actually use it in a physical way legally, and rights are transferred all the time, right, by whatever contracts, invoices, whatever. So I feel like if there's something like that, like it's a promise back to the real world. You have the right to do something with this because you own it. Right, I think that is a much easier thing to sell to people, like the idea behind it.
This is one of the things that I promise I won't drag on too long about people, but one of the cool things that he was talking about during this interview was, you know, in healthier times, like when this person who purchased this piece of his artwork, you know, when they can get in touch again, he was like, I'm happy to do whatever. Like, I will do a giant printout for your house. You want that? Great, you got it, because you have the right to that piece of art. You want to project it on the side of a building in New York? Like, we can do that. You want it to be housed here? You want it to live on this like looking glass hologram screen or whatever? You can do that because you own the rights, right? And that doesn't mean that somebody else can't do it. And this is something I've heard a lot too, like, I know we were talking about, like, it doesn't mean that somebody can't take a screenshot of this piece of art somebody shares it and go like, this is mine, right? But one, it won't be the same quality. You won't have, like you said, like, oh, I have the file too, right? You don't own it. And I guess this kind of gets to Ellie's point. Like, it doesn't mean that we should really like lay it on thick about this whole like ownership. But in terms of the rights, like if you are laying claim to owning a piece of people's artwork or some artist's artwork, they will know whether you do or don't. And people, I'm pretty sure, is not going to get in touch with somebody who is lying about owning this piece of art to go and project this piece of art on the side of a building. And so there's this whole like interesting connectivity thing between the artist and the purchaser of the art, or the collaborator, or whatever term you want to place on it, the collector. It's a replication of something that exists in the physical space, now in the digital space, but like with the use of different tokens, different contracts, now becomes this really interesting question, as you were saying, about like rights and what can be done. Like if I buy a song, a crypto song, does that mean that I can now use it in every single one of my videos? Because if it does, I'm definitely going to do that. It's a whole new way, between air quotes, of like rewriting our current systems.
Yeah, and then ownership is it's the most interesting point about all this, because ownership as a concept is a legally binding thing. Like, because sentient beings own material things, like in the real world, and that's legally binding. So you can give something as a gift to someone else, and then they own it. You no longer own it. You can't steal it from them, and if you do, then there's repercussions for that. You can transfer ownership as a promise in any way, so by text and documents and whatever, and that will hold up in court. So that's something. But like ownership via a token, is it legally binding? Because a token is, again, like, even as a concept or a thing, it's a thing. It's like a key to a house. If you own the key to a house, you don't own the house, you own the key. Right? So if someone steals that key from you, well, you can't claim the house back. You can try and claim the key back via a court or whatever. I don't think a token by itself is necessarily enough for someone to claim ownership of like artwork, even if it is digital. So I wonder if like these websites or something can auto-generate like a legal documentation and like auto-destroy legal documentation, or do like a reverse thing when that token transfers ownership. So not only is a token being generated, but just a legal notice that mentions rights is also being made alongside that. Because again, that's something that connects to the world. That's like a promise that the creator says, okay, you own this now. Like, this is yours. This piece of artwork, this copyright, this concept, you have a connection to it now. So they actually have like just a word of mouth thing that says, okay, this artwork is what you own, not just this token. This token is like a key, but this is the thing. So yeah, these are just ideas. Yeah.
That's going to come, at least in the United States, that'll come one of two ways. That'll either come through Congress. They're way behind this. They're not going to, that's way behind. Or it's going to come by somebody suing somebody else and setting court precedents.
Yeah.
So if you get case precedents, then you can cite that case, and then it's legally binding and you can use that in court. Other than that, like, I don't know how it'll work in the UK or wherever else, but like we have yet to cross that bridge.
Yeah,
because legislators are not going to do anything about that until it becomes a problem and people scream and cry about it. Like, so it's going to have to be settled in court cases, lower court cases first, probably.
There's always that one.
Be interesting.
There's always that one big court case that happens.
Yep.
At the beginning of like every technological change. So there's going to be a crypto one eventually.
And that goes to what Arturo was saying about whether we do this right or we do this wrong. Because if big money sets up, if they just file like amicus briefs and they set up this entire thing, right, to kind of game the system in their favor, then they're going to win and they're going to own this. So we need to watch this space. We all know that there are people with a lot of money and a lot of power who are watching this going, So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
One thing that's really exciting is actually like contracts, smart contracts that are attached to coins specifically. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on for how they end up defining what can or can't be done with any specific transaction, because I think it might in some ways prevent the court case from happening, because maybe, let's say, and this is very nascent and I am also very nascent in my understanding of this, so don't take my word for it, do your own research, but I could imagine a world in which a specific token or contract that's attached to that token would allow you to, or just prohibit you from doing something that's not within the contract that has been provided for which the token has been provided to you by. So in other words, like maybe you want to reproduce a specific thing or you want to download something, but it won't let you do it. It's like a play only or read only type of situation. And so, yeah, I'm curious to see like where this leads. And like you all were saying earlier, like I wonder if it will end up being that there's this huge crypto case that kind of shuts all this down in some way or kind of like contracts it a bit, but at the same time, the appeal of things being decentralized kind of makes me think that that may not be the case, or maybe not as early as we thought.
Yeah, but I suppose countries are starting to draw their eyes onto it, because wasn't India considering banning cryptocurrency or something?
I think
like
they
that?
banned Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, yeah. So I think I'll close up here for now. But that was a good discussion.